It starts in the most ordinary way. A quiet moment standing in front of the mirror. Maybe it's after brushing your teeth one morning or while fixing your hair before heading out. At first, you don't notice anything unusual. Just your reflection like always. But then something shifts. Your gaze lingers a little longer. Your eyes scanning every detail of the person staring back. There's a heaviness around the eyes that wasn't there before. A tiredness, not just from a bad night's sleep, but something deeper. The lines on your forehead seem more pronounced. The corners of your mouth subtly pulling down even when you're not frowning. Your skin looks duller, almost as if the vibrancy of youth has been drained little by little, so slowly that you never realized it was happening. And then, it hits you like a quiet punch to the gut. You no longer recognize the person in the mirror. You remember when your face used to light up with a simple smile, when your skin felt alive and your eyes held a spark of curiosity and excitement. But now there's a stranger in the glass. Older, wearier, a little more lost. It's not vanity that makes this moment so painful. It's the sudden awareness that time has been moving faster than your heart can keep up with. You whisper to yourself, "When did this happen?" But the mirror doesn't answer. It just reflects back the truth you've been too busy to see. Then there's the slow creep of comfort, the kind that feels innocent at first but becomes a quiet thief over time. It starts with choosing looser clothes because they're more comfortable, skipping the morning routine because no one's going to see me today, and convincing yourself that fancy skincare routines are for younger people. Gradually, what used to be small acts of self-care, a spritz of cologne, a quick touch-up of lipstick, a careful choice of outfit, begin to fade away. Days turn into weeks, then months, and suddenly, you realize you're wearing the same worn-out sweater you've had for a decade. Not because you love it, but because you've stopped caring. Your reflection shows hair that hasn't seen a trim in months, nails left unpolished and uneven, and a wardrobe that feels more like a collection of what's easy rather than what makes me feel good. But the most painful part, it's not just about how you look, it's about how you feel inside. When we stop putting effort into our appearance, it subtly chips away at our confidence. It sends a silent message to ourselves that we no longer deserve to shine. And the world picks up on that message too. People respond to energy, to the way we carry ourselves. And when we stop caring for our outward selves, it often signals that something deeper is being neglected as well. But aging doesn't just creep onto your skin, it slips into your voice too. Without realizing it, the way you speak begins to change. Some people grow quieter, afraid of being seen as a know-it-all or complainer. So they shrink back, choosing silence over confrontation. Others go the opposite way, raising their voice louder and louder, not out of anger but because their hearing has subtly faded, leaving them unaware of the volume of their own words. And then there's the habit of interrupting, something that often happens without malice but becomes a desperate attempt to be heard when you feel like the world has started tuning you out. Imagine sitting at a family dinner, excited to share a story from your youth, only to realize halfway through that no one is really listening. The kids are on their phones, the adults are exchanging glances, and your words start to feel like background noise. So you talk faster, louder, trying to reclaim the attention slipping away. But instead of drawing them in, it pushes them further. The hard truth is, how we communicate affects how people see us. Speaking too softly makes others think we've lost our confidence, while speaking too loudly or interrupting gives the impression that we're out of touch. The real power lies in balance, knowing when to speak, when to listen, and most importantly, when to command a room not with volume but with presence. And then there's the cruelest form of aging, the moment you start to feel invisible. It doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow, silent shift that you barely notice until one day you do. It's in the way people stop asking your opinion, how conversations move around you instead of through you. It's when the waiter looks past you and asks your younger friend what you'll be having, or when your suggestions in a meeting are met with polite nods but no real consideration. Suddenly, you realize you've become a ghost in your own life, present but unseen. This invisibility doesn't just stem from others' actions. It often starts from within. When you stop engaging, when you pull back from conversations, when you tell yourself, they don't want my advice anyway, you begin to fade, not physically but emotionally. The world starts treating you the way you've started treating yourself, like you don't matter as much anymore. The most dangerous part is that it becomes a cycle. The more unseen you feel, the more you withdraw. And the more you withdraw, the more invisible you become. Breaking that cycle isn't about demanding attention. It's about reclaiming your space. It's about stepping forward, speaking up, and reminding yourself and the world that you still have a voice worth hearing. And perhaps one of the most emotionally charged habits that age us is the back in my day trap. It starts as a harmless way to share stories, to reminisce about the good old days when things seemed simpler, people seemed kinder, and life felt more familiar. But slowly, those memories turn into a wall between you and the present. What begins as nostalgic storytelling morphs into constant comparisons. How today's music doesn't hold a candle to the classics, how young people lack work ethic, how technology has ruined everything. Without realizing it, every conversation becomes a lecture, a subtle but steady reminder to others that you're clinging to the past. The painful truth is, while those stories are valuable, dwelling too much in the past can make others see you as stuck, like you've given up on the present and the future. It pushes younger people away, not because they don't respect your history, but because they feel you've closed the door to what's happening now. The most youthful people aren't the ones who erase their past. They're the ones who carry their history with pride while keeping one foot firmly planted in the now. They balance wisdom with curiosity, teaching others about the past while staying open to what's still to come. Next section. Glowing star. Slowing down doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow drift. It starts with choosing the elevator instead of the stairs or skipping a walk because you're too tired today. But what feels like rest turns into stillness. Muscles weaken, steps become smaller, and suddenly your body seems older, not because of time but because of inactivity. The hardest part. Others start seeing you as fragile, offering help when you don't need it. It's not the years making you feel slow, it's the habit of choosing comfort over movement. Then there's the danger of the "what's the harm?" diet. It begins with small indulgences, an extra soda, fast food because it's easier, until these choices become daily habits. Your skin loses its glow, your energy fades, and the mirror shows someone more tired than they really are. The aging doesn't just happen on your face, it happens in how others see you. Not as someone treating themselves but as someone letting themselves go. And once you feel worn down, your mind starts believing you're old too. Sleep, or the lack of it, is another silent thief. Poor sleep isn't just about dark circles under your eyes. It's about the way your skin dulls, your patience shortens, and your energy crumbles. Each restless night adds weight to your face and heaviness to your spirit. It's not long before people stop seeing you as tired. They start seeing you as defeated. And the longer this goes on, the more you feel like you've aged overnight. Not from time, but from the toll of sleeplessness. The most dangerous habit, though, is telling yourself, "I'm too old to try." Each time you pass on a new hobby or decline an invitation, you build a wall between yourself and the world. Others stop inviting you to things, not because they don't care, but because you've already convinced them you're not interested. It's not your age pushing people away. It's the mindset that you're too old for new beginnings. The truth is, it's not the passing years that make you seem older. It's the refusal to embrace what's still ahead. And finally, loneliness, the most heartbreaking form of aging. It starts with skipping a dinner or ignoring a call, until suddenly, the invites stop coming. Days blend into weeks of silence, and what was once peaceful now feels empty. Loneliness doesn't just age your heart, it ages your body. It makes you withdraw, and before you know it, people see you not as independent, but as someone who's faded into the background. The saddest part. They assume it was your choice. Living in the past doesn't feel dangerous at first. It starts as a warm comfort, sharing memories of when life felt simpler, when music sounded better, when people seemed kinder. But slowly, those stories stop being bridges to connect with others, and start becoming walls that shut them out. Every conversation turns into a comparison. How today's world lacks the charm of yesterday. What you don't realize is that while you're holding on to the past, the present is slipping away. Younger people start to see you not as wise, but as distant, like you're living in a time they can't reach. It's not your age that makes you seem old. It's the refusal to embrace what's still happening around you. The most youthful souls aren't the ones who forget their past. They're the ones who carry their history like a badge of honor while keeping both feet firmly planted in today. They tell their stories, but they also ask about yours. They remember what was, but they look forward to what will be. And then there's stubbornness, the silent kind of aging that creeps into your heart. Feels like strength, refusing help, brushing off advice, standing firm in your ways. You tell yourself, I don't need anyone. At first, people admire your independence, but over time they stop offering help. Not because they don't care, but because they're tired of being rejected. Friends stop giving suggestions, not because they've stopped thinking about you, but because you've convinced them you already know best. What you don't see is how this makes you appear. Not strong, but isolated. People start seeing you not as self-sufficient, but unreachable. And the saddest part, you mistake their distance for proof that you really are alone, when in reality, it was your own walls that pushed them away. True strength doesn't come from standing alone. It comes from knowing when to let others stand with you. Then there's the quiet fading of small joys, the moments you stop noticing. The sunsets you used to watch from the porch, the hobbies you once loved but now brush off, the spontaneous yes to a dinner invitation that slowly turns into maybe next time. Until there's no next time. What once brought a sparkle to your eyes now seems like a distant memory. And without realizing it, you're not just aging in your body, you're aging in your soul. The light in your face begins to dim, not because of time, but because you've stopped feeding the parts of yourself that made life feel magical. And others notice. They see the way your smile doesn't quite reach your eyes anymore, how your laughter sounds more like a habit than genuine joy. It's not the lines on your face that make you look older, it's the absence of light behind them. True youthfulness isn't about smooth skin, it's about a heart that still finds wonder in the smallest moments. The all-or-nothing mindset is another cruel form of aging, the belief that if you can't do something perfectly, you shouldn't bother at all. You skip the gym because, I'm too out of shape to start now. You avoid buying new clothes because, what's the point? I'm too old for fashion. You dismiss learning something new because, it's too late for me. This kind of thinking doesn't just hold you back, it weighs you down. You convince yourself that anything less than perfect isn't worth the effort, but what others see isn't someone protecting themselves from failure. They see someone who stopped trying. They see someone frozen in place, not by age but by fear. But here's the truth. Youthfulness doesn't come from doing things perfectly. It comes from doing things imperfectly and loving every messy step along the way. Progress, not perfection, is what keeps your spirit young. And perhaps the most heartbreaking habit of all is waiting for someday. It's the most deceptive of all aging traps, because it feels like hope. Someday I'll take better care of myself. Someday I'll reconnect with old friends. Someday I'll chase that dream I put off for years. But someday is a lie we tell ourselves. A way to make us feel like there's still time without having to take action right now. Days slip into weeks, weeks into months, and suddenly, the things you swore you'd do one day become the things you regret never doing at all. And the world notices too. Friends stop asking you to join them because you're always too busy. Family stops waiting for you to visit because you always say next time. People stop expecting you to show up, not because they don't love you, but because you've taught them not to wait for you. The harshest truth. Life doesn't age you. Waiting for the perfect time does. Because someday never comes. Unless you decide that someday is today.